You know, the real power moves, they aren't the ones you see coming. They don't arrive with a lot of noise or aggression. They are quiet, almost invisible. It's not about shouting, it's not about threats. These moves operate in the spaces between words, in the silences, in those subtle shifts of energy that you can feel in a conversation. They're hidden in plain sight, really. You'll find them in the tone of a simple question, the timing of a pause, or in a phrase that seems completely innocent on the surface. They're like these little architectures of control, built without making a sound. And you feel it, don't you? That subtle shift, like the ground just moved a little under your feet. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you feel the effect, but you can't name the cause. All right, so let's start with the most fundamental moves. These don't just influence the conversation, they actually control the reality in which the conversation is happening. I want you to really pay attention to this, the emotional state that kicks off an interaction. If someone walks in with a very distinct energy, others in the room will unconsciously adjust to it. And that adjustment, right there, is a concession of power. Think about it. Whether it's a deep calmness that forces you to lower your own intensity or a sudden urgency that makes you feel rushed, the principle is exactly the same. The person who adapts has less power than the person who is being adapted to. This is the unspoken message behind what we call the subtle dismissal. It's one of the quietest, but also one of the most effective forms of control. So when you hear these words, I want you to understand that they aren't really about you. They're a move to invalidate your perception. And if you accept them, you're handing over control of the frame. You're agreeing that their reality is somehow more real than your own. Have you ever been asked a question that didn't really feel like it was looking for an answer? Some questions aren't seeking information, they're dominance checks. A simple question like this can subtly reposition the entire dynamic of an interaction. And just like that, the moment you start to justify yourself, the hierarchy is set. You are now in the position of proving your worthiness to the person who is simply evaluating. The power has completely shifted, all from a single, simple question. When a conversation gets close to a topic that threatens their position, I want you to watch for the pivot. The focus is suddenly moved away from the issue itself and onto something totally irrelevant. Your tone, your timing, maybe a mistake you made in the past. The original point just gets lost, and you're left defending yourself on a battlefield you didn't even choose. Okay, this next set of tactics works through indirect pressure. They're designed to make you feel like you have to act against your own best interests, often without you even realizing you're being influenced. You know, silence isn't just empty space. It has weight, and a well-timed pause creates this vacuum that you feel an intense, almost primal need to fill. And in your rush to fill it, you often say more than you meant to, or you soften your position just to relieve that pressure. We tend to think of interruptions as just being rude, right? But sometimes they are incredibly strategic. It's a move to break your flow of thought, to destabilize your confidence. The person who controls the flow of a conversation, well, they ultimately control its outcome. Think of this as emotional reconnaissance. A small, provocative comment is thrown your way, not really to engage, but just to measure how you respond. Your reaction then becomes a map of your inner world, revealing all your triggers and your boundaries to the observer. Now, for our final set of tactics, these are, well, they're weapons of perception. They work by manipulating how you see yourself and your place in the social landscape. This move brings in an invisible army to back them up. By using phrases like experts say or people are saying, they create this immense social pressure. All of a sudden, you're not just disagreeing with one person anymore. You're disagreeing with an entire unseen crowd. Listen really closely to compliments like these. They aren't actually affirmations. They are behavioral constraints. They create an expectation that you now feel pressure to live up to, which boxes you into a behavior that serves their interests, not your own. This is a really subtle one. Someone shares a wound, not to connect, but to disarm. They offer you this small, curated piece of their vulnerability, which makes you feel safe enough to reveal something real in return. But theirs was a strategy. Yours was an opening. They gain information, you lose ground. So after hearing all of this, you might be wondering, what's the point? Is it to become defensive or suspicious of everyone? No, it's to become grounded. And here's the thing, most people who use these moves aren't trying to consciously dominate you. They're just trying to subtly position themselves a little bit above you, to feel a little more secure, a little more in control. It's usually an unconscious drive. This awareness, it's like putting on a new pair of glasses. It doesn't create a new reality, it just reveals the one that was there all along. And recognition is the first and most important step to holding your center. You don't have to call them out. You don't have to confront them. The simple, quiet act of recognizing the move inside your own mind is enough. The moment you see it for what it is, its power over you dissolves. Awareness really is the antidote. So now you have this lens. The invisible dynamics can become visible. The quiet pressures become clear. In the very next conversation you have, try to listen not just to the words, but to the space between them. What will you notice now?